The first-person shooter space is really interesting because there was that whole court case that went back and forward when Xbox/Microsoft were trying to acquire Activision Blizzard. All the conversations around Call of Duty, Sony saying there's no way that we can make a Call of Duty competitor, and then all the stuff that Xbox was trying to do about giving them like an 8-year clause or a 10-year clause or whatever. Alongside, for the last few years, there's been this rumored first-person shooter, military shooter that's first-party. You might remember better than me the staff that were brought across, I think from Infinity Ward.
It was Treyarch.
From Treyarch,
yeah.
The idea being that Sony would make their own Call of Duty essentially and do a first-person shooter that is a military shooter. They've had similar things on PSVR. It didn't last too long, but Firewall Zero Hour was like a Rainbow Six or like a Call of Duty. They've had games in the past that had a military feel, something like Killzone, SOCOM would be the perfect thing to bring back. Yeah. But maybe they want to do a new IP or whatever. But there are rumors doing the rounds that whatever that project is ready to be shown or at least be teased because it's been mentioned for the last 4 or 5 years. And like I said, because you had all the court case stuff, obviously they lost that and Call of Duty did go across to Xbox. So why not jumpstart and say, hey, we don't even need that thing. We have our own. We have Call of Duty at home, and it's actually pretty good. So either that, or like you say, you have Bungie take the lead on it, and they are arguably the kings of first-person shooting in the console space, or at least they used to be. Why not lead with something that just looks incredible?
Dude, I think ever since I started this job, I have been saying that Sony needs a first-person shooter series because I just think it's such a huge blind spot. And if they are pushing into live service stuff, I think you think of live service and you think of Call of Duty, you think of those first-person games. Obviously, I've just blanked on that.
Overwatch 2, damn it.
Titanfall 2.
Titanfall 2. Maybe they're not as ubiquitous as I thought, but I do feel like they go hand in hand. Apex Legends, PUBG, you know what I mean?
There he is.
There they are, all coming back to the forefront of the brain. So yeah, I would love to see them announce multiple FPS franchises going forward because I just think they could do it really well. And like you said, with them not having that close relationship with Call of Duty anymore, I think it's going to be fascinating that this is the first year since the PS4 era that Call of Duty hasn't been on the PlayStation stage. Like they had that marketing deal down where they were so intrinsically linked with it. I do think they are I don't know what you guys think about this. I do think they are right in the court case that they can't make another Call of Duty. Like they can make something that rivals it in terms of quality, but I just don't think you're ever going to go toe-to-toe with Call of Duty with the cultural relevance it has and the install base that it has and the popularity that it has and match anywhere near that.
I disagree. Yeah, massive. If we're talking new IP, look at Helldivers 2. Like, I think you put enough marketing behind something and you say from the creators of Call of Duty, you hire the right staff. Look at the success of Helldivers 2, the success of Palworld. People love new ideas, new IP. I think Call of Duty's best years are behind it overall, and I think you can do better than that.
I think Call of Duty, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about quality. Sony can absolutely make a game that is better than Call of Duty to play. I'm just talking about like market penetration and saturation. I think you can say that Call of Duty's best years are behind it, but then it's also recently had its best years financially with like the release of Modern Warfare 2019 and the microtransaction side of Warzone. Like Warzone, I think really reinvigorated the brand and just the amount of users Call of Duty is able to reach. I don't think for as big as Halo is, for as big as Destiny is, it doesn't get to that level. Like I don't like crunching numbers like this, but there's a reason Activision looked at Bungie and Destiny and said, you're not big enough for us because it didn't reach those Call of Duty levels, right? And that's kind of what I'm saying.
It's the FIFA, Call of Duty, EA, like there's millions of people out there who get like 2 games a year.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It's probably, I definitely like Joe, I agree with you that they can make something that could be better, qualitatively speaking. Obviously, phenomenons like Helldivers 2 are like really, really big for that reason. But I still, it's one of those where it's like, there's going to be a case where I'm excited to get new FPS games because it's like when we talk about them right now, Overwatch 2, like Overwatch has gone basically. You know, we had Rainbow Six Siege was like nine years ago.
Yeah, ages ago.
Like we've been dying for something to enter into the space, and you know, I don't think anything's going to overtake Call of Duty as like a cultural kind of like totemic game.
Right.
But I think that, you know, the time right now is there to strike.
This is it. Like, I'm not saying that like Sony can't produce a success. Like you said, Helldivers 2 sold 12 million copies. All I mean is compared to Call of Duty, like Battlefield in its heyday with Battlefield 3 when it was going head to head with COD sold 15 million copies. And even EA said like, right, we can't go after these guys. And that was, 10 years ago or whatever it is. So I do think like the market would eat it up, as we've seen with Helldivers, as we've seen with Destiny, and that continued success. I just mean in terms of, I think losing Call of Duty is ultimately going to be a hit, especially if it gets put on Game Pass and becomes so associated with Xbox. But Sony can try to fill that gap, absolutely, with a new franchise. And like Ewan said, I think now is definitely the time when people are kind of wanting that multiplayer hit and have got it a little bit with Helldivers 2 at the start of the year. And if we can get that from a first-party perspective, job's a good one.
That's I'm just a very never say never person, but I just genuinely think you put the full weight of the Sony marketing behind it. You have phrases in the trailers that say from the creators of Call of Duty, and you remind people every step of the way that it's the next thing. There's enough negative stuff around Call of Duty's reputation, whether it be install file sizes or people getting sick of the IP. Right. You bring people in that way.
Like it's like the Medal of Honor died at some point. You know what I mean? It could happen.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater
happen
died,
to the King as well. Like no one's completely infallible there. So I agree with you, Scott, in that sense. I think there is a way that can happen, but I do think that it will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of time for habits to break. People are very baked into that routine now.
I'm with you. Like Call of Duty will die at some point. It will go the way of the dodo, and it will go the way of
hear that Call of Duty?
You're
gonna die.
Your days are numbered. The thing is, though, like, that's...
Oh, sorry.
No, just super quick. That's the toss-up, right? Because like Xbox buys Call of Duty. We know that they have a fraction of the market share that PlayStation and Nintendo have. You saw, like, the last couple of weeks, all the conversations around Call of Duty being on Game Pass. And then some people saying, well, guess I'm getting an Xbox. I'm curious how many people actually follow through on that, whether they just stay on their PlayStation. And then if PlayStation then provide a Call of Duty alternative, it's like, well, I don't need to bother forking out all the hundreds of cash for it. XDefiant is another test case for this. I don't think that's going to be anything.
Not to interrupt again,
you see
the
people
real litmus test for this, the school playground. Because like when we were growing up, it was like Call of Duty was the thing that you had to have. It was the game that you had to have. And
that's why I don't think it's that anymore.
And like now everyone's playing Fortnite. Everyone's kind of looking at these other different live services. Obviously Warzone is still huge as well. Yeah. But it's one of those where it's like we're very much immersed in these online spaces. And obviously that's not to say that casual video game fans, people who play or diehard Call of Duty fans aren't on those online spaces. But there is a certain area of conversation that we can't necessarily be privy to. Yeah. So it's interesting to see how that cultural cachet will evolve with obviously like the diminished reach that Xbox has compared to PlayStation.
I think going off what you both have said, I think the one difference may be that Sony can provide a Call of Duty competitor, but I don't know why people who play COD religiously and that is their one game a year would have their heads turned, because it's going to continue to come out on PlayStation consoles for the next 10 years. Like that's part of the deal. It's always going to remain multi-platform. The best Xbox can do is say you can get it quote unquote free on Game Pass, but it's always going to be available on PlayStation at least for this next decade. So I think they can provide an alternative that will get other people in. But I just think, I don't know, every time we've bet against COD, and I know it will die, I know it will win eventually, but every time we've bet against COD, especially when we've said from the makers of X Studio, nothing has ever reached COD levels for whatever reason. Battlefield has never reached it. Titanfall never reached it. Literally from the developers of the Call of Duties people loved. Destiny never reached it. All of these games that tried and failed to go after COD, it's like Man City, right? Every season, and I love to crowbar football reference to this, every season people say Liverpool's going to chase them, Arsenal's going to chase them, and it's like, at the end of the day, it's Man City, it's Call of Duty, they are so big, and I just feel like betting against them in the short term, I think it's like in 5 years' time, gradually they could decline, but I don't think Call of Duty is ever going to go overnight.
Well, that's all I'm referring to, like the long term. Like, I mean, like I said, that 10-year thing where it's still going to be available on PlayStation, you have 10 years to build goodwill around another brand. Also, the examples you gave there, just for my side, would be like none of those were pound for pound hitters. Like Destiny messed up its entire story, like it was horribly received and it was patched so much. It took them until Destiny 2 before it was even stronger. Then there was all the microtransaction controversy. Titanfall 2 was released at a horrible time. Like no one's ever really gone pound for pound against COD and actually been able to be supported the right way. Like Battlefield 2142 or 2042, whatever, was the most positively received or looking game until it launched. Then it was horrible again. Like it's like if there was something that had everything in the right place and then we saw it fail, fine.
I agree. And we've talked so much about COD in the PlayStation.
This fish is a big deal, damn it.
No, it really is. It really is. I think you are right. You are right. None of those have been as fully formed as Call of Duty because, like, one of you said about an hour ago, Call of Duty has had this 20-year lead to get everything refined. But to me, that's indicative of how hard it is to make a COD killer. We've had excellent studios try and fail. Franchises in their prime like Battlefield try and fail. Is Sony, with their relative lack of experience in the FPS genre, capable of making that fully formed product? As much as I do like the games they've put out, I don't know.
It's so interesting because a lot of this hinges on the evolution of the multiplayer feel because Battle Royale has been the thing for like 7 years now. Please die. Go away. Like we might need Battle Royale to die for something else to come in. And
well, their assumption is extraction shooters, which it so far hasn't been the thing.
But that's also like Battle Royale adjacent in a way because it's like you drop it into a map, you got one life, then you pick up a thing. So
I was going to mention in that regard, like the Division Heartland game got cancelled by Ubisoft. That was an extraction shooter version of the Division, and that didn't test well. It got it got cancelled. Marathon is Bungie and Sony's big bet, at least for their existing first party idea, and whether that goes down well or not, whether extraction shooters are the next big thing or not, I don't think they are. I still think it's deathmatch and PvP, but like you can still have Battle Royale blow up and everything, but the core foundation still needs to be there.
I think Marathon being an extraction shooter is going to be interesting because I do think they could make it the next big thing. Obviously, it's huge in the PC space when you got like Tarkov and stuff, even stuff like
the Hunt Showdown.
The Hunt Showdown. But we've seen the big franchises who got into Battle Royale and found some success or just have regular success in multiplayer try to dip their toes into extraction stuff and have it not work. Battlefield 2042 had a mode that instantly dropped support. COD had DMZ, which was the extraction thing for them.
Right.
That's not getting any further support either. So it's like maybe with those big franchises doubling down on Battle Royale and doubling down on their regular multiplayer offerings, maybe Sony can come out and be the first big AAA console extraction shooter success story. I can definitely see that, to be fair, if you get the elements right.
I'm just fascinated by how it all plays out going forward. Like, you know, obviously all the inner turmoil at Xbox as well. Like, you have them acquiring studios and then not knowing what to do with them. And Activision themselves have been all over the place with Call of Duty, where it means moving studios around to try and get something over the finish line each year. It seems like it's only harder for them to keep up this 1 year cadence as the generation rolls on and technology gets better. And they're about to start trying to cater to the new Xbox console and PS5 Pro and whatever. Meanwhile, you have this potential of a PlayStation first person shooter that can lean on, hey, it's skins from God of War, it's Jin from like Ghost of Tsushima. Like, you have all that combined brand power.
She's got a new hat.
I'll take the new hat, but we will see.
Sorry, last
yes.
is final thoughts. Like, I want to make it clear, I love Call of Duty. I want it to fail. I want the wheels to come off that train, and I'll tell you why. One, I want more competition, but two, I want to prove to Activision that the model they have for development now does not work. Because like you said, they have been laying the tracks in front of them for about 10 years at this point. Treyarch's always called in to fix a fire. New games are started, then cancelled, then reworked. It's just, the model doesn't work. It might have worked in the PS4 era, but those teams, I think they need more time. I think they deserve more respect for building this huge franchise, and I hope it always takes a failure for a big company to realize that things need to change, and I hope, you know, they eventually realize and don't shut the studios down or kill COD, but allow those studios to do what to their credit, Ubisoft did with Assassin's Creed and say, right, we're taking the foot off the gas. We're going to give you more time and more resources to polish these things up. And I just kind of hope that is the future of COD, because I do think those teams are so talented. Those sub-franchises can still produce great things. It's just, I agree that the current model is just untenable at the moment.